Hey everyone, Jason Balin from Hard Money Bankers and Ian Horowitz from Equity Warehouse. Today we're going to talk about subsidized rental programs for your rental properties. Now, I don't know about you, but it's kind of interesting to me that it's super hard to find information about subsidized rentals. So you either have two options. You either have to know Ian and learn from Ian because he's, for the most part, an expert at this, and he's the person I go to when I need help, or you got to learn it the hard way and hit up every city, every county, every jurisdiction and figure out what the right programs are. So Ian, let's just dive in real quick. Why don't you just start off by telling everybody exactly what a subsidized rental even is?
So subsidized rental is actually where a tenant is renting your unit, but there's a government agency or there's a program, a nonprofit, whatever it may be, is actually subsidizing a portion of the rent. So the tenant will pay a portion of the rent, and the program, the administrator of the program, will pay the other portion of the rent.
Is there a lot of programs like this out there? Or I think the common one's Section 8, obviously. That's what we all have heard of.
Right.
What other types of programs are out there?
So the common one everyone knows is Section 8. They've actually changed their name to Housing Choice Voucher Program. That's usually the one that's run by the city. Locally here in Baltimore, there's about a dozen programs that operate here in the city under nonprofits or through the mayor's office, that administer the same type of program. And when I say that is they follow the same guidelines as the Housing Choice Voucher Program, where they have inspections initially, annual inspections, tenant requirements, and how they pay for the lease.
Can anyone qualify for these subsidized programs, subsidized rentals? Is it just a process of going in and applying?
Yeah. So if you own a property, wherever you may be, nationwide, locally, here in Baltimore, if you have a property and you identify a tenant, your property is not approved to be Section 8. It's that you've identified a tenant that holds a voucher who wants to rent your unit, and then you as the landlord actually need to follow these guidelines. It's a common misconception that people think you get your unit approved first and then you get your tenant. It's actually the opposite. You get a tenant who holds a voucher, who then rents your unit, and then you then follow those guidelines.
Got it.
So the easiest way, honestly, is to find local tenant placement companies that handle these types of things, and can help you identify tenants that hold vouchers easier than tenants that, say, pay in cash.
What's better, retail tenants or subsidized tenants? I know that's obviously like an opinion base, but maybe some pros and cons of each.
Well, obviously our choice is we prefer to have subsidized renters just because our money's guaranteed. Portion of the rent is guaranteed by a program. You also have recourses. So the pros are not only you're receiving a portion, if not all of the rent from an agency, you have annual and inspections and initial inspections to make sure your unit's being taken care of. And it forces you to be a better landlord. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Also, another pro is that, if you do have a beef with a tenant, there's other types of recourses that they have out there, say a tenant's not paying. Like the other day, we had a tenant who's a little bit behind on her portion of the rent. We reached out to the program. She's actually reaching out her today to find out what's going on to help us along the process, versus having a cash tenant who, if you're having an issue, it's you and them, and then you got to go before the judge. So there's actually an extra step to mediate prior to having to go all the way down that road. Cons with the subsidy programs is you do have rental inspections every year that you have to follow. You need to fix, they're going to give you an annual inspection list. Some people see that as a pro with a cash tenant, that you don't have to go to your unit. You only go when they call. But some cons with cash tenants is it's harder to have accountability for your rent. But the pros are you can get a tenant in tomorrow, whereas with a subsidy tenant, you have to go through this inspection process, and it could delay you 4 to 6 weeks. I'd say on average 2 to 4 weeks, but the process has been getting a little bit slower.
And if you're planning for that accordingly, based on, hey, I have a turnover ready to go, I pre-plan. One other thing, are these types of programs only, do they have subsidized housing programs in any price point in any types of neighborhoods, or is this really only pick up in the lower income areas?
No, it's it's anywhere. As long as your housing agency is administering the Housing Choice Voucher Program, which pretty much every jurisdiction across the United States of America does. The only thing that you're going to find is that they have set rent guidelines that they're going to follow based on the size bedroom house that you have, and they're going to have rent tolerances from lower ends to higher ends. So you might have a 4-bedroom house here locally in one of our better parts of the city where you can get $2,500 rent, where with subsidy housing, you're going to get anywhere from $1,500 to $1,800 rent. So cost basis acquisition property wise is probably not going to make sense for you. However, if you can afford to do that, then you can accept them. You can accept a subsidy tenant in any unit anywhere. Just remember that the price points are set initially by the program.
Good to know. Good to know. Yeah, all good stuff. I'm sure there's some other viewers that may be watching that are listening to this that are really curious to learn a little bit more about this topic. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
The best way to get a hold of us is check out our website, www.equitywarehouse.com.